Today on Oud Talks, we welcome Palestinian composer, Oudist, and educator Ahmad al-Khatib. He teaches modal music, composition theory, and ensemble music at the University of Gothenburg in Sweden. He has recorded several albums and is an active performer at music festivals as well as numerous projects and ensembles. Today he'll discuss his experience learning the oud, his tips and recommendations to young oud players, some of the differences between approach in learning music with the oud and Western classical music, what he looks for when buying an oud, different oud accents and playing styles in the Arab world, the importance of ear training, and producing high-quality sound on the oud, as well as the challenges of recording the oud on stage, in the studio, and with an ensemble. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you.
Would you like to start by telling a little bit about the story of your relationship to the oud as being a refugee, a Palestinian refugee in Jordan, I believe. Is that correct?
Mm?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did you start playing the oud?
Well, it's. I must start like just saying that refugees, like people sometimes get the feeling that refugees are in Jordan at least, like they are part of the society, the community. They were not like excluded. So
Yeah.
it was you just like live within the. So you don't have that question so much, of course, other than the political engagement that is a bit stronger inside the community because of Palestine and the political situation. But other than that, it's just you don't have any restrictions or where I lived. It's just basically I come from a family. My father is maybe he's culturally enthusiast, you can say. He's a poet. He plays a bit of oud and my sister also plays, and I have cats behind. So,
That's fine, yeah.
yeah, I have a sister who is also studying music. She's older than me, and then so music was there. I started with a violin.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, like it's like I think I was 9 or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I met my teacher, Ahmad Abd Qasim, his name. He's a Palestinian from Iraq.
I see.
who studied at معهد الدراسات النغمي, something similar to the music school in Baghdad, which was formed by Sharif Muhyiddin Targan
Right.
in the 30s. And
Yes.
so he's a nai player, but he also plays oud. And you know, like being in Baghdad and you are Munir Bashir, Salim Abdel, all those are part of the stuff. So you get inspired to play oud. He was a very good oud player, but his main instrument was nai. I met him and we started. I started like my journey with the oud. But it was faster because I had like 2-3 years before as a like playing violin, and so it went fast. He taught me for a period, then he left to Baghdad, and then I continued, and then in the first phase it was very intensive, like really intensive period, like 3-4 hours a day.
3-4 hours a day with the one-on-one with you.
Yeah. I mean, he could go teach other students, but I was kind of a permanent student. Like sometimes there's no place in me in that music school, so I used to sit in the balcony, like with the highway, you know. But I was always there, like say, like after school with him. So he also took it. He was very committed to. He thought I was enthusiastic and I was working hard for the instrument. So he gave me a kind of special treatment. And then even in the weekends we used to sit the whole day with the instruments.
Oh, yeah.
And no scores, nothing. It's just like 1-to-1, and he plays and I copy basically. That's very similar to the old style of education that was replaced later by classes, and it was all one package. The teacher teaches you everything.
Right.
Then when I got to my 18, I wanted to study music. So I thought of I was quite good on the oud, so I wanted to try another instrument, and then I went to cello.
Yes, yeah.
It also has to do with I read in the like that Sharif Muhyiddin. I was very not influenced, but I had so much enthusiasm to Sharif Muhyiddin method and
Right.
character. So I wanted to experience his same journey. So I went into cello because he was also a cello player.
Right.
And during those 4 years, I met my other Japanese teacher, Moto Takao. He was amazing teacher. I studied in France with Jean Dron, I think, a famous cello player, one of the top. So he came through a project to Jordan, JICA. It's like Japanese volunteers overseas. And so it was the whole package, or the whole education was sponsored by Japan.
Oh,
so we didn't follow really the regular, like the system of the university, because there you have one instrument class every week. But since he was paid fully from Japan to and I was his only student at the period, then we were 2 or 3. So he had full time paid from Japan to teach 2 or 3 students. So I was very lucky with that. So I instead of 1 hour per week, I used to meet him every second day for 2 hours.
Fantastic.
For almost 4 hours, 4 years in my life. So I really almost stopped Oud during those four years. I really went very focused on the cello.
Classical style.
Classical cello, yes, very, very classical. So that's and with the Japanese teacher, it was the opposite of my Oud teacher. It was very much scores and notes, and you have to prepare, you have to read. Everything is written. So it's like to the point I got addicted to the fact that there always should be something in front of my eyes, like I have to see. And that kind of psychologically, it's just like amazing, because I could never memorize anything on the cello. While the Oud, I was like a tape recorder, you know, like I was like, I remember when I was a kid at school, they used to call me to place things in front of me, so I will memorize it. That's it. And I still memorize it until this day. But on the cello, it's the opposite. It's like I can't even memorize like four bar. It's like I have to see it. That has to do maybe, I think, with like you are systemized through your education, how to think.
Yeah.
And maybe also has to do with that Oud is more or less my mother tongue music language, while cello is something still like whatever you try is still something foreign to you.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I didn't think of it, but it was very strange between cello and Oud. I reached a point where I got tired of having the two instruments together. So and there were not many cello players. So I was more in need as a cellist than as an Oud player.
I see.
Teaching and playing. And at a certain point, I felt, okay, I have to stop this because I'm still an Oud player inside. So, and then I got some issues with my pinky finger here.
Oh, yeah.
So I was recommended to take it easy with cello, because the cello has much more pressure than the Oud. And then I stopped cello. I went back to Oud.
Wow.
10 or more years ago. But I still like sometimes play cello.
Yeah. That's very.
So I hope that was not so long, but that's my journey with with music and.
No, that's fantastic. I think a lot of people who are watching these videos will appreciate that experience, because the methods are kind of different. The way that you interact with the music is a little bit different in the Middle East to in the West. So I think it's very interesting to hear that, because I think a lot of the Western musicians, they are used to, either some of them, they really love the score. They really are addicted to the score. They need to read the music. Others of them are completely by ear. They don't read anything. They just hear and they feel the music and learn by ear. And I think it's an interesting experience to hear that, you know, your cello music was completely from the score, but the Oud music was completely, inside you, to some way.
Yeah, by ear. Yes.
Interesting. Yeah. Do you have any maybe any tips for somebody who is stuck onto the notes and really loves the notation, what they can do to, experience a little bit of that Middle Eastern style of learning, or um, perhaps playing.
Yeah, I mean, if you start by learning, usually when you learn an instrument, I think it's important to learn it and understand the context of this instrument. What is it really for, and how is it used? And based on that, you design your needs and your style of of course, I wouldn't mind learning oud by score, but is the oud has score kind of tradition through the history? No. So you will be, it's not like a violin where you can find a huge library of written music where you can just live within in the scores. In the oud, there is, I compare it, it's somewhere between jazz and classical music, because it's in one way, because jazz musicians usually write the guidelines, the main melodies, and then it's all improvisation. So they are used or learn to read, but don't read at the same time. So they know how to fill in between, how to deal with the scores. Yeah. While it's the opposite in the classical music, you have to, your training, mostly the traditional training, is that as much as possible follow every tiny detail. And if there is no details, you are stuck. You just don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. Because you are, your mindset is like that. Oud is in between. It's in one way, you have the concept of guideline writings, but you also have to be out of this. If you are stuck, you cannot treat scores in oud music or Arabic music like the way you treat them in classical music.
Right.
So that's number one. And to develop this, you need always to learn how to get out, take a distance from the scores and not be dependent on them. Because otherwise, then you have to find scores that has all the details written, and I don't think they exist, from even older days when they start writing, they only write the guidelines. So these fillings are you need to learn them, how to fill, how to phrase, because if you look into the Ottoman notes, for example, or they just write a scale down, but they never play a scale down as it's written. Yes. So you need to understand that there are things in between the lines that you have to learn. Right. And the best way to do it is to train your ear, always with every 1 hour of score or exercise behind score, try to put 1 hour just ear training. Play by ear, listen and try to copy, to see, okay. And this is not a defect, this is natural. Some people say, oh, you have to be a literate musician to be able to read scores, so they always feel that it's part of development. No, this is not true. You can be super prima vista musician, but you lack musicality, and vice versa. It has nothing to do, it's just like a tool. You need to use it in the best way. So ear training is I think in all kind of music, ear, you have to develop your ear. But in some tradition, classical music, you could still learn and have a career just based on classical orchestra reading, you sit behind this. But in other traditions, especially Arabic or Iranian or Turkish music, if you don't develop your ear, and plus we are talking about microtonal music, you need also, no score can tell you where is the right intonation. Yeah. Of where, in the Qanun, maybe you have the the tuning bricks, levers, small, yeah. But on the oud, it's all based on ear, so you cannot rid of your ear training development.
Right, and you teach at the University of Gutenberg.
Yes.
My pronunciation of
yes, it has so many different names.
Yeah,
the Academy of Music and Drama. I teach. They have a world music program, and they have. So I teach mainly there.
Do you use any of a mix of methods? And how much do you use the ear method, or how do you integrate that into your teaching, if that's applicable at all?
Mostly, I try to use ear, because that's something that is lacking. Some people think, oh, it's actually most, and it's also demanded from the students. I noticed that many students would like to learn by ear because they think, and which I agree, they learn the music better. They understand the music better if they just memorize it. And score sometimes takes out the energy or makes it easier. For granted, okay, the score is there, I could just play it. But you don't really go deep in the music.
Yeah.
So and plus this is the Academy of Music, so most of the students are grown up. They are already established musicians. They have the skills. So it's more about working on musicalities and like fine details. It's not learning from zero.
Nice.
But even in workshops, oud workshops, I very often, even if it takes longer time, I try to use ear more than scores. I could feel it. It's just like the moment you put the sheet of music in front of him, he's just closed, like he's in a box. It's amazing. So I feel it's better engagement. He looks you in the eyes. He watches your hand when you speak to him directly.
Yeah, fantastic.
So it's, but still, I think it's also important to learn how to read, because sometimes you are in a situation you don't have the time to learn things. You just need to be able to process the music through the scores. So both, but you need to find the right balance.
Right. Yeah. Very fascinating. Yeah, that's true. Let's see here. Maybe do you have any suggestions for younger generation of oud players, whether they are from Western background or from Middle Eastern background? Do you have any tips or suggestions, or perhaps hopes or dreams that for these younger students who might be considering to take the oud very seriously, to learn Arabic music or Middle Eastern music very seriously? What would you suggest for them and recommend to them?
The thing I mostly recommend, it's just because I feel it's very much missing these days, is to focus on the sound. There is a kind of notion that technicality is speed and complexity. Well, to me, I think we should bring forward the fact that especially the oud, of course in all of them, but oud is the unique and the special character of the oud is the sound. So to me, this bringing or being aware of the sound of the instrument is part of technicality. So you could be super skilled on the oud, but you don't have the sound. So that's what I always feel that I bring forward to the students, that oud, whatever you try, it's a limited instrument. If you compare it to a violin or even a cello, or technical wise and harmonic wise and blah blah blah, it has other values.
Yes.
And I always feel sorry that people put aside these values, this uniqueness of the oud, and they focus on thinking that I'm getting better because I can play sonatas or whatever. You can play whatever you want to play, but don't compromise on the sound of the oud. That's my, I think, advice to everyone who wants to. And oud is becoming more global. You could really play. You could find oud in everywhere and different styles. So there is no, of course, there are traditional, classical, old styles which are nice and they have the traditional sound and traditional use of the oud, but that's not the oud. The oud is much bigger. You can expand it. You can use it the way you want. But if you want to experience the oud or to use the oud, it's so important to understand the unique sound of this instrument, and from there you start to pick and choose. And what I see today is there's so much use of the oud, but there is the sound. The understanding of the sound is not there, and so that's my advice if I want to advise.
I think I'm sure a lot of people will understand, or at least be able to appreciate that, because I hear from a lot of people that, at least with their relationship with the oud, they hear the oud once and they fall in love with it, and that's where their journey begins. The same was for me. I heard a very obscure recording of Hamza al-Din's playing Lama Bada Yatathana, and that was it. I heard that once, and I was hooked. I had to figure out, what is this instrument, and so and yeah, he's one of those players that really has a very very deep sound in his playing, and I think that's quite a good advice.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like sometimes you meet players who are kind of limited in their technical virtuosity. Like they are not really show off, but still they capture you, and you would sit and listen like 4 hours with no hesitance. But on the other hand, you feel like you meet players who you feel they have like kind of conflict inside that that it's like abuse relation with the instrument, that they want to prove something, that like there is this stress that they like give you, and you just don't understand why. I mean, oud is the most intimate, nice, cozy instrument, I think. Like not just because I'm an oud player, but it's this instrument that it's very friendly, very peaceful. It can be blended easily, smoothly with everything. It's also very good instrument for really expressing yourself. It's like you feel you are. I think it's even the whole oud stayed. All these like many ancient instruments just disappeared or went into museum. But oud is like, relatively talking, it's older than even ancient music like Renaissance or medieval music. It's even older, but still it's living instrument. It still exists, and you don't feel any ancient flavor in it. And it has this, I think, because it's very personal. It can be really. It talks instead of you. You know, if you want to express, if you want to, I don't know. It's just that's the charm of it. And it's never been. Of course, it's good to develop your technical, but it's only a tool to expand your expression ability. But still, the one tone, one string of the oud is, if you know how to use it and to strike it right with the right amount of pressure, and you really focus on the resonance and the harmonics of the instrument, it's so beautiful. It can give you much more impact and efficiency than playing million notes, you know. And again, I mean, oud still is a limited technically instrument if you compare it with other instruments. So the strength of it is not technicality. It's the sound and how you maneuver within the sound and you use it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I really like that point, because people are exposed nowadays on the internet to all kinds of oud playing. So they're gonna see these very technical aspects, and they may be attracted to that, and that may pull them into a certain direction. But it's good to hear this as well, that there's that deep sound and appreciation of the sound in simple forms that are very beautiful as well. Can you maybe discuss a little bit of the regional differences in the playing styles of oud in the Arab world itself? Because there's so much variation. I personally, as I mentioned in my questions, there's something about the Palestinian oud players that I've heard that really attract me to their style, and I don't know if it's what it is exactly. It's hard to put into words, but I wondered if you have some insight into that, coming from that, living in that environment and growing up in that environment, being exposed to Muhyiddin Targan's school of music as well as growing up in Levant, in Jordan, and spending time in Palestine and all that. If you can touch on that.
Yeah, I thought of this question. I was like trying to reflect, and I kind of agree that there is established oud school in Palestine. That is, if I would describe it, like Palestine is not like culturally, traditionally, within the history, it's not a big region. It's a small region and has so much influences from everywhere. It's not like like India or like Turkey or Iran or it's a small country. And like historically, if you want to be an established artist, musician, you don't stay in Palestine. You just move to Damascus or you move to Cairo, because there is no there is no commercial or like But the political conflict, I think, it made people much more aware and protective to their identity, to their heritage, culture, and that's very, I think, is obvious in the way they play. They always, you feel, whatever they departure, whatever they develop, they are so much, so you can say it like scared, or like they fear their roots, because it's like, you know, the situation in Palestine with these threats of culture and blah blah. So they always go back to their root, because it's part of their identity. And this is why I always feel in the Palestinian oud playing, there is always, whatever the oud, like they are also different players and different style and different directions, but they all meet in one point, which is like they try to keep the essence of the oud playing connected to the traditional sound of it. Even if they play jazz or whatever music they play, you still find there is a touch of sound. Is like, it reminds you with the original sound of the oud, or the traditional sound of the oud, and that's the mellow, the depth, the more I would say alto bassy sound, and even the technical is always going out from a traditional basis. The root of most of what I hear is just, or themes also for composing, they always come back to a point where it touches the traditional oud playing. While in other countries, I'm not generalizing, like there are always exceptions, but like maybe because it has, they don't feel the same threat, or they are much more at ease with their culture, so they feel they either departure so much, and they start to play things that are, in some cases I feel it's like the same journey of the electric guitar journey from the guitar. It's happening on the oud now. It's almost like, you know, the transformation of a oud into electric oud with it's very similar, because you start, okay, the sound doesn't work, I put a pickup, oh it doesn't, then I change the plectrum of the oud with a guitar plectrum. So it's just like the evolution of you could see it happening in real time now. Or on the other hand, there are some schools, because it's, as I said, it's so strong culture. They are so locked within their dialects, and so you feel every player is a copy of another player. In Palestine, is a bit more liberal, but it's still, there is a personal commitment to the tradition. It's not no agreement on it, but it's just naturally happening. That's why you always feel the Palestinian oud players, whatever they try, this is to me like also personal, maybe some people can disagree, but I always feel that there is a natural oud sound coming from the players that sometimes you lack in other oud players from other nationalities, with exceptions, of course. But coming back to your about different dialects, there are like, you know, there is the Iraqi, I would say the modern Iraqi school, which is Munir Bashir and later generation, because that's also not the traditional Iraqi, which has more treating the oud as a solo instrument, you know, and raising like the tuning and it's the most at a certain point it was the most popular, I would say, among oud enthusiasts. Until lately, it's more Turkish, I would say. There is more Turkish influences on oud. You feel many young generation, which is nice. It's just fascinates me, because sometimes like you speak with a foreign dialect, and that's kind of weird to me, because you meet a player from Tunis or from Morocco, and then he play a bayati with an Istanbul touch. It's nice. It's just like, I mean, of course, everyone can do, but it's just like they have it's a big subject. But and then you have the peninsula, the Arab peninsula, which is a bit more rhythmic. It's Yemen. It's one of the most, to me, one of the most fascinating oud schools, because they have this integration between so much rhythmic playing, and they have a special also intonation and melodic movement that is has a Indian African blended together with the oud. So rich and amazing oud players from Yemen.
Yeah.
And of course, you could trace it also on the Arab Peninsula. Like you could see it in Saudi players and Kuwaiti. They have the same approach.
Right.
And then you have the Egyptian. The Egyptian, I would say, is much more. It's much more musical, I would say, than in like it's the oud in Egyptian traditional. You feel it's just a tool because the music, the essence is maybe it has to do with also the fact that Egypt is a very important place and lots of composers lived in Egypt and they used the oud. So the oud was more like a tool than it was never a purpose. Maybe some oud players will from Egypt will disagree but no, that's actually fascinating in Egyptian oud, that it's not the oud in itself, it's beyond the oud. It's the how to execute the modal ideas, the melodical ideas, and that's what attracts me mostly in that school. Is not the actual oud playing, is beyond that. This is why I think Riyad Sumbati, for example, is one of the most amazing oud players. Although if you look at him from a technical point of view, he's not that advanced. He doesn't use so much complex phrases or technical phrases, but still the richness, the ideas, the improvisation, the sound of his instrument is amazing.
Yeah. That brings me to one of the questions of one of the oud players that perhaps inspired you the most when you were young, learning the oud. Do you want to comment on?
Yeah, I mean, through my teacher, of course, I got the first oud players I met in my life or heard were the Bashir brothers, Munir Bashir, Jamil Bashir, and that school. So I would say, even though I'm not from Iraq and I can't claim, but still I've listened a lot in my teenage to Munir Bashir and Jamil Bashir, especially, and got very much inspiration from their style and their oud sound. And but with time, you change and you meet other inspirations and you develop your own and you start to think. And I must also say, like when I started talking about education, there is one downside of traditional education, that you also copy your teacher, and sometimes to a point, or copy your school to the point that you are locked in it. So because you are not expected to raise questions, like you just take. Especially in the Arab world, you have just to believe and just take it as it is and just follow. So with the cello playing, it just opened my eyes into bigger spectra of music and how to deal with instrument away from oud, cello, whatever. Like how you treat instrument. At the end of the day, it's just a tool. The music is your knowledge, your understanding, your experience. And the oud or the cello or whatever instrument is nothing but a tool to use to bring forward these ideas. And in that, I got, in one way, liberated from being locked within the oud, because in the beginning of my years, I was like just really tape recorder. I met Munir Bashir once. I was playing in a concert and he came, and he even was like, I don't know, was it 20 or something? And he said after the concert that, oh, you play good, but you are so much influenced by me, by him, Munir. It was like I was like really copying even the breath of, which is a nice, natural, good phase that I think it's every player should go through these phases of really trying to copy to the maximum, especially if it's someone like Munir Bashir, who's a reliable, good, established oud player, and it's a very good platform or foundation to build yourself on. At that time. And Munir Bashir was not as famous as, like, I'm talking about 80s early now. So still was also exclusive to me. That was part of the nice thing about learning that school. It was not so used and popular at that time, and later it spread. Maybe when it spread, it became so. I went to to something else, but that was my starting point.
Did you ever use the fa tuning?
Yes. Yeah. I used it almost until mid-90s. But then no, actually later even, like my first album, 2002, I used it. But later Sada, yes. Not all the tracks, but some of the tracks. I used the fa and with this floating bridge oud.
Oh yeah.
But later I just I don't enjoy it anymore. It's nice. It's nice instrument, but it's just too sharp for my ears. Maybe I'm getting older. It's too sharp, and it's I mean, to me, I think the oud, the beauty of the oud is in the lower part of it. It's not the higher part of it. So since maybe more than 15 years or something, I don't use that unless I need it in a project, and I have some project where I need the fa because of musical reasons.
Yes, yeah.
Not because of a sound reason.
Yeah.
But if I would choose all, I think I have like almost 13 oud. I think 11 or 12 are tuned in the traditional, maybe one with a fa. Two with fa.
Fantastic. Do you wish to comment on one of your favorite ouds or your favorite oud maker? This can be one of these questions where I'm not sure how comfortable you're commenting, because everyone has their favorites, and every oud has its flavor, and every maker is unique.
Yes, and every oud player uses the oud differently. So sometimes that's also something that maybe it's good to talk about, because like very often when you play and people go, who's the maker of the oud? It's with all respect to the maker, but I've seen oud players who play with different ouds. Like I'm speaking different, like really fa oud, Turkish oud, Arabic oud, but they would still have the same sound in whatever instrument they are using. Yes, oud builders have the sound and have blah blah, but also the sound is very much by the player himself.
Right.
So that's also something that I know some people get disappointed because they ask a player that they trust, they like, okay, what oud do you play? Oh, they go and buy that oud and it doesn't sound the same. Well, of course it doesn't. It's much more than just the oud. It's how you use the plectrum, how you use the tuning, where do you hit, how, blah blah blah. So, but still, there are some builders who, to me, there was one question that there was like, what is the most important in the oud? I think you asked something like, these are connected. I think builders and oud. I think. To me, the most important that I play on a oud that I feel inspired. I don't feel that I need to struggle to produce the sound and that means that it's good size. I used 19.5 dimension. Some people use 20. Some people like really emphasize that if you want the Arabic oud, you have to play 20. Right. I don't. I never played on 20 centimeter neck. I play always 19 and a half, or even 19. I just used to it, and also the thickness of the neck. There are some ouds with, if it's too thin, then I can't, because also this has to do with my hand. Maybe I have a bigger hand, so I need a neck that I feel it fills my hand, but it's not too big also.
I see. Yeah.
And the size of the oud, you shouldn't feel that you are really, there is like too much, like wide. So that's, to me, to feel comfortable with the instrument is much more important than the sound. This is stage 2. If it's a great sound and I don't feel comfortable, it doesn't work. I need to feel, that's an instrument that I feel at ease to play. Then we go to second step, which is the sound. And then you try to, and when it comes to the sound, you have two styles of sounds. There is ouds that the sound projection is to you. So you feel that I have audio access to the sound. Nice. You hear the oud is talking to you. And there are oud who talks to the listener. And that's also tricky. I tend to like ouds that talks to me. I don't know if this is it's also with guitars. Some people even like try to put a hole in the body just to make oud is not easy to monitor when you play with ensembles. So it's so important for me to have an oud where I can hear what I'm playing. Even like if it's a great sound for the listener, it doesn't. I need to enjoy the process.
Right.
So so that's the criteria of a good oud in my opinion. And then you need also an oud because ouds tend to buzz and to have some kind of defects here and there. So that's also important that you have an oud that at least have a decent bass without too much. The buzz may be natural on the oud, but it shouldn't reach a point where it becomes distortion.
Yeah,
that's something. And some ouds are not so clean when it goes in the higher positions. You feel they are. So these are the technical aspects of an oud that I would prefer. I'm not so enthusiastic about names.
Yeah.
And about age. I'm not a collector. I saw old ouds. I'm not. They sound nice, but I don't feel comfortable with playing nahat oud. I saw some nahats which are, yes, but it's not me. I feel it's it's something that doesn't interest me. Like 60, 70, 80, 100 old ouds. I rarely found an oud that is inspiring. And old and inspiring. Oud doesn't have that age resistance like a violin or a cello.
Right.
So I think unless you want to really renovate it constantly, but it tends to get old, and the sound gets a bit, Then makers, of course, like you have Turkish makers, you have Arabic makers. These are the bigger, and you have good makers in Iran also. Like
recently,
very. I didn't. I met few there, but I don't own any Iranian oud. And this has nothing to do with nationality, but I think Palestinian oud makers are one of the best in the Arab world, at least. There is Boutros Bshara, Peter Sayegh, Abu Ala. They have this, again, it's just this connection with the instrument that it's still, the sound of the instrument is still connected also to the low, mid, bassy touch of the oud. Other than Iraqi oud makers are great, but they tend to get higher in pitch and metallic and high mid sound, which I don't enjoy.
Right.
It was not the case with older builder like Muhammad Fadil.
I see,
But today's, I see it more and more. I don't know, maybe it's the demand or the young generation, they want this sound.
Yeah, could be.
And then you have the Turkish oud, which is really different than the Arabic oud. The vibration of the face is different, so it tends to resonate more, and that's amazing when you play alone. But it's playing with groups, especially not classical, traditional Oriental groups. I feel sometimes it's a problematic with the Turkish There's too much resonance in the sound.
Interesting.
That makes it. I maybe didn't say it, but I also work a lot in mixing, and so I'm really like trying to learn or develop my understanding for the acoustics of the oud, and I always feel it's so much difficult to mix a Turkish oud in a band than an Arabic oud in a band.
Fascinating, huh?
It's there is this too much decay of the oud. That it blends too much everywhere, so you need to use too much technicalities to reduce this and to control the sound of the oud than the Arabic ouds.
Interesting.
They have a shorter decay, so it makes it much more easier in a mic. They are much more microphone friendly, I would say.
Interesting.
With exceptions, of course. I use both ouds just to tell you, so you don't. I changed so much ouds. So I'm also enthusiast in the not just the playing, the whole characteristic of the sound and
that's a very important thing that I think people can forget, and musicians themselves, artists themselves, if they don't educate themselves on how their oud playing should be mixed, it can again cause problems. I know for myself, I don't have that education. I'm still learning that kind of thing, and so the amount of performances where I've performed with an ensemble, and then you go and listen to the recording or the video of it, and there's no oud, it's gone, because I didn't know, what direction to give, or what instructions to give the sound engineer to bring the sound out or make it meld with everyone properly. Or stand out.
Yeah, that's the nightmare of oud players, like how to make the oud sound in a band, and it's just there is no absolute answer. There are different. It starts from the point you choose your instrument, then how you play, and how you use the microphone. Like, for example, if you want to play with the Egyptian, just I don't want, maybe this is a full discussion, but like if you want to play with more aggressiveness, or more Egyptian style where you hit the string more, I think you shouldn't go for a condenser mics. You should go for a dynamic mic, because they can hold more attacks and they get warmer. So using a condenser mic in a style, Egyptian style, will give you too aggressiveness. And I listen to lots of sometimes oud plays, and I feel tempted I like really to control the acoustics. So I don't mind to be a sound engineer than an oud player in a oud festival or something, because I could tell like this performance can be really boosted like a lot by using the right microphone, the right amount of miking, and that's something I feel sorry for oud players, because sometimes you could tell that he's a good oud player and he plays nice, but it's the wrong equipment or the wrong capturing of the sound.
That's fascinating.
Sometimes you listen to really oud festivals and you are very disappointed by the fact that sound engineers don't know how to treat. And I've made my Sadat, for example, I remember I stayed a lot in that studio with the sound engineer, and he told me he works at Sonopress, I think one of the biggest labels in Germany, doing like really like surround sound. They are very much into acoustic, and he said that he thought that classical guitars are the most difficult instrument to record. But then when he saw the oud, he said like it's nothing compared to the oud. Oud is so complicated. It's really complicated instrument to really capture the right amount of all the harmonics and the resonance and decay and make it sound really pleasant to listen. Because acoustically it's a great instrument, but then when the moment you put a microphone, it just transforms into a monster. So it's so that's also something you said, young generation. I always also recommend that you need to, as much as you learn the instrument, you learn the physics of the sound of the instrument, to be able to know how to refine your products.
Yeah, that's
you could work and practice and spend hours of working in a micro details of the techniques and the sound, and then a guy comes with a wrong microphone and wrong equalization, and he just destroys everything. And it's so common with oud. So it's so important to be aware of that aspect of the music also, that it's not just you playing. There is so much, because you are not the one who control the message to the listener. There is some something in between. That if you don't, we are not always playing acoustic music to real audience. Now it's more and more digital and recordings and microphones and
Yes.
speakers, and so you need to put in mind that this is also a knowledge that you have to develop.
Very good point. Yeah, thank you so much. That of course, yeah, is like you said, a whole separate topic that you can speak for hours and hours. But that's good that you touched on it. So thank you so much for that. I don't want to take too much of your time. So I was wondering if you had any upcoming workshops in Europe that you would like to share with anybody who's going to be watching this video, or anything that you want to promote, anything that you have upcoming. You can of course send me the details,
Yes.
and I can put them in the description. I can announce them formally in another recording, but if you want to share anything right now, please.
This 1.5 year Corona time just changed everything, and we are so it's now starting to open up. I have next in 8th of July I have a workshop in Arles, south of France. It's a big festival, world music festival, and on the side they do also master classes. So I'll be there. I have a project with Yusuf, a few coming recording projects. So I've been using this 1.5 year to compose and write. So I have so much. I used it efficiently this period, which was nice.
Good.
I also have this Bosphorus ensemble, which I arrange and do some kind of directions to it. It's a nice Swedish project between East and West.
Great.
We will have a tour, long to 4 weeks tour in this autumn with a program dedicated to Kulthum. So it's you can also find it on YouTube, Bosphorus Ensemble. We have 2 videos.
Great.
Plus others like Samara Trio. We have also a tour with the Swedish Middle Eastern blend music, and I'm also playing with a trio from Norway, which is a Balkan jazz, accordion, bass, percussion, and oud. We have also some tours in Germany and Norway.
Fantastic.
Yeah, these plus a solo and duo with Yusuf Habeish, the percussion player.
Fantastic. Great.
Playing since ages together, more than 20 something years.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all oud percussion combination. It's one of my favorite.
Yeah, that was another question I had thought. What's your favorite thing? Any particular percussion, darbeke or rik or bendir? What's your preferred, instrumentation with the oud?
Percussion, like finger percussion in general, it blends nice with the oud because there are this balance between like the details, the fine detail, and there is no so much aggressiveness or so much. It's not like really stick. There is no kick. So it blends nice, the frame drum especially, and the rik more than the darabuka. The darabuka is nice, but it's also easily can tend to go into the, a bit, acoustic things that I think sometimes it's too strong if you don't play with the right players who is aware about how to use the darabuka with the oud. But frame, rik, they are super naturally, like they blend with the oud. I like the combination of oud bass also. This is nice because they have the aspect of being rhythmic, harmonic, and melodic at the same time.
Yes.
And the sound is also warm between the 2 instruments, so it's just so enjoyable.
Yeah, that's actually one of the combinations I like as well. Yeah.
Yes, I'll have a coming project with a cellist, oud cello percussion with Vincent Segal. He's a very nice cello player from France.
Fantastic. Good.
Very special. Well, hopefully these will be in coming projects.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Ahmad, for being here with us today. And we'll put some of those links to any of your projects in the description. So please check them out. And thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
I really hope you enjoyed this video. If so, please like and subscribe. If you're interested in learning more about Ahmad's activities, workshops, and music, please check the links in the description below. You can find a link to get on his newsletter. Thank you.